Hey guys, Chris here again with Busted Knuckle, and bet you never thought that a heavy-handed guy like me would ever get into working on things like these. Let's talk about it.
Oh hell, I can fix that. Honey! Can you bring me a Band-Aid, please?
Alright guys, well winter is coming on. You can see we're in full fall as you look behind me here. And so the weather's getting pretty poor here in Virginia, and I try to focus on things that I can do more indoors than out. So obviously the restoration of my old instruments is stuff that I try to work on during the winter time. For those of you that don't know me, I've been a musician for many years, and started, honestly, with simple restringing of my own instruments to doing basic setups to doing pretty major repair work. That said, full disclaimer, I am not a professionally trained luthier or repairman, so I do the best I can with what I've got. Okay, guys, so if you're going to work on violins, there are many very specialized tools that you'll need to even attempt this. And again, I'm going to put the disclaimer out there. Don't do any of this stuff to your good violin. Those of you that own them know exactly what I'm talking about. But if it's something that you picked up at a swap meet for 20 bucks, you're really probably not going to be able to do much more damage than, life already has. Alright guys, so as you can see here, I've laid out quite a few of my tools, and pretty much all of these are very specific to violins. Now, some of them I use in a generic capacity, but, they're pretty important tools. So, if we start down here, obviously this flexible inspection light is very good for being able to stick it through the F-hole in the violin and take a look in there and see what's going on. So I've got my little inspection mirror here. Other things that you will be needing is very sharp knives. That's an X-Acto. I've got a couple of carving knives that I also use, but they're in the other toolbox. A couple little gouges and scrapers here. Got up top here some convex. Hopefully that shows on the camera here. You can see the bottom has got a nice curve to it. Finger planes there. Varied scrapers. This is a chin rest tool to take the chin rest off. Little compass right there. Scribe, I like to use that. Some peg tools here. So we've got peg paste, a reamer, a peg shaver. Moving over here, we've got a variety of clamps. These are crack repair clamps. So if I have to take a top off or something like that, I can pull that back together as such and repair a crack in it. These are also crack repair clamps here. This is a little gluing clamp that I made up. I made lots and lots of these. I have a whole bunch of them. As you can see, I've got them just sitting on that violin like that for the sake of this little video there. So they're super nice if you're gluing a top back on. And then we got very specialized sound post tools. This is a measuring device. You unscrew this a little bit, and I'll see if I can work it for you here. And what happens after sticking it inside the instrument, you slide it up and down to get the approximate height you need to cut the sound post. Now, this is a pretty traditional sound post setting tool. You would stick that sharp end into the sound post, fit it through the fiddle, and then put it in place and kind of pull back. Then you can adjust it with this side. This is also a sound post setting tool. This is what I call a bridge jack. I made this one, but you can buy them. This is a very important tool for me. This is it's a little gauge. It's got the string spacing for the bridge, string spacing for the nut, the string height above the fingerboard, and then this curve on the top is the curvature for a violin bridge. So it would be setting, if we were looking at it going away, it'd be setting like that. That's the rough shape that the top of the bridge should be. And then this bottom one, where my finger's at, that's the rough shape that the fingerboard should be. So measurements are very important. I've got a bridge fitting tool here. So yeah, lots and lots of pretty specialized tools if you're gonna try working on violins. So anyway, let's take a look at this instrument that we're gonna try to repair in the video today, and we'll move on. Alright, so the first thing that we're going to do, well, coffee. One thing while we've got it all apart and the fingerboard's still off is we're going to go ahead and polish this top. There's some spots in the varnish that are worn through, so we want to go ahead and protect those. So I've got this it's 100% cotton cloth. It's get that nice and flat. Our polish on here. I'm gonna drop of oil to stop it from sticking, because it's gonna. But you can already see that's just a single coat, and look how nice that is. So we're going to put a few coats on here. So once drying in, we're going to work on the scroll here a little bit. And a little bit of that polish goes a long ways. Got a little more polish on the rag. Again, a little oil to make sure that we don't stick. Make sure I get the button. Now, as I'm going along, I'm lightening the pressure. I put a little more pressure when I first start in, and then I lighten up on it, which helps you avoid little streak marks and stuff like that. You are probably going to get some. Look at that. Isn't that nice? So, I'm going to do a couple more coats of this, and we really want to make sure the varnish is protected. Alright guys, so we got a few coats of the polish on there, and you can see that really came out nice. You can see a nice reflection of the chandelier above in this thing, so I think that's quite acceptable, especially for an old trade fiddle. Again, the label on this one says GB Schweitzer. It's not, of course, but so anyway, we're polished up now, so it's time to go ahead and start putting things back together here. So we're going to go ahead and get the fingerboard back on it, which the fingerboard fits really, really nicely, so we're just barely going to clean the neck up in the back of the fingerboard to make sure we got good contact and go ahead and glue that back down. Then we have to make a nut, make a bridge, and get some strings on this bad boy. Alright guys, so we glued the fingerboard back on, and of course with violins you only use hide glue. I can't stress this enough. Take the bottle of Tight Bond wood glue and throw that away. That's for furniture. So the fingerboard's back on, and of course it was fitted to this instrument already, so that's great. And hopefully you can see here, I don't have a lot of light, but there are some pretty healthy grooves in the fingerboard here. So we're going to plane the fingerboard down and smooth it back out before we remake the nut. Now, we're not going to dig all the way to China here, guys. We don't want to remove a lot of material. We just want to take this old stuff off. So once I give it a cursory pass, what we're going to do is actually raise the grain on it. So I'm going to take hot water and put it on here and then let it set for a little bit. And what is going to happen is the grain's going to swell up, and that'll allow us to dig these, to even out these grooves in here from where it was played. So anyway, I'm not going to do that in the house because ebony dust is toxic and we have pets and things like that. So I'm going to take it outside and start working on that, and I'll come back and show you what it looks like when I'm done. Alright guys, so we've done a cursory planing of the fingerboard, and most of it came out. Those little shiny spots that you can see in it are still low spots. So what we're going to do is take hot water and put it on the fingerboard now that the pores have been opened up where we planed it. Now you got to be very careful doing this because hot water will make the hot glue let go. So we're only going to put it on the surface of the fingerboard. But what's going to happen here? Yep, that's hot. Is it's going to raise the grain. Okay, so what we have to do is let this set and dry in, and I'll come back and show you. They said you can very clearly see the string marks in the fingerboard, and yeah, there you go. So there's a few, but those are going to raise up considerably with this hot water treatment. And then we'll be able to hopefully to get them out. I'm not worried about getting them 100% out. Again, this is a trade fiddle, guys. So if this was a concert master's instrument or something like that, it'd be one thing. Of course, I wouldn't be working on it because you shouldn't be doing this stuff at home to your good fiddle. I know I said that earlier, but so anyway, we're going to let that dry in, and I'll come back and I'll show it to you once it dries off. And you'll be able to see how much those depressions have lifted, and then we should be able to go ahead and give this thing a final work over here. All right, guys, that's dried in, and you can actually feel it. It's much more coarse. And our shiny spots are still the low spots. Hopefully you can see a few of those. So we're going to give that the once over now, just dried in. While I was doing it, I went on ahead and fitted a brand new set of pegs. And I'm very happy with those. And the way you can tell if your pegs are fitted properly, hopefully the light shows it well enough. Maybe not. But you can see on the very end of the peg and then right in here that it has a polished look, which means that it's making good contact with both sides, which is what you want, and it's turning beautifully. I'm very, very happy with those. A lot of times what you have with, again, here on the end, you see how shiny that is, and then right in here, again, that it's making good contact with the wood. So what we did is that we took my peg reamer and just trued the holes up. Well, you don't want to get in there and dig all the way to China because you'll make a huge hole and then you can't fit a peg into it. So all we did was true the holes up to make sure that they were round. Okay, then I took my peg shaver, which has been set to the same angle as the reamer, and just turn the pegs down a little bit. Once I got them fitted the way I want it, right, you can see there's no play in them. They're, you know, I said they turn nice and smooth. All of that's great. So then I went on ahead and marked them and cut them off so that they don't stick through the peg head. And then went on ahead and marked them and drilled the holes for the strings. So now we're going to go ahead and give this fingerboard the once over one last time and fit our new nut, and then we'll get on to making a bridge. Alright guys, so we gave this the once over here, and once I had most of it scraped out, there's two tiny little indentions left right here and here. I don't know if you'll be able to spot them on camera. They're so small. There's one of them, kind of. But we took about 99% of that out, and then we went over this fingerboard with 320, 400, 600, 800, 1,000. Then we started the wet sanding with 1,000, went to 12, 15, 2,000, 2,500, and 3,000 grit sandpaper to finish it off, and it is glossy smooth. Very, very shiny. Most violin makers, I'm sure at this point, would go ahead and re-dye this black, while ebony is a very dark wood. It is not naturally jet black. So, anyway, we're going to move on here. So at the front of the fingerboard is supposed to sit the nut. Now I've got this ebony nut blank, as you can see, is ginormously too large. That's the reason it's a blank. So we're going to go ahead and mark it. For width, and then for height, now what I choose to do is take and draw this these lines on here with a pencil. Okay, and that's going to give us a rough starting point. I don't know if you can see those. Yeah, you can see up. Now, that's still going to be too high, but that's okay. This is just the rough nut shape, and then we'll refine it in as we go. So, I'm going to head out to the shop and start cutting this thing down, and then we'll go from there. All right, so we fit the nut side to side here, and we also thicknessed it. And you can see that is setting just right, a perfect 90-degree angle to the fingerboard. Now you can see it's also a mile too high, but I prefer to do my final shaping after the nut is in place and the glue is set up. So anyway, we're going to let that glue set, and then we'll break out the rasps and the files and all the fun stuff, and get this thing beat into some kind of reasonable submission here. So anyway, I'll get back to you. All right, guys, we fitted the net, and that looks good. Time to work on the bridge. Now, I've got a bridge blank, which is just ridiculously huge, and especially because the neck angle might be a little low on this thing. I don't have the gauge, and I haven't measured it, but so I've got this old bridge, and you can see it's been definitely worked over some, but the feet were never fitted to anything. They're still dead flat, and the curvature isn't quite right either. So we're going to start by working with this one, and hopefully we can get it into a reasonable shape. So the first thing that we have to do is pare the feet down with a knife and take some of the bulk material off of there, because the curvature is just way off on those. So I'll be using an X-Acto. A lot of people use heavier carving knives, but an X-Acto is fine. And then once I get a rough shape in, then we'll use my bridge fitting tool, which you insert the bridge into the tool as such, and we'll put sandpaper on here, and what we'll do is roll back and forth right over top where the bridge sets, making sure that the angle's proper, and really finally fit those feet. And once we do that, we'll go ahead and pare down the top and see if we can get that string height and angle correct on everything. So anyway, I'm going to start doing that, and then I'll get back to you. Alright, so we've fitted the bridge feet, and then I have made my bridge, which you can see that's a blank, and that's a much more refined piece there. We've removed a little material from here, opened up the kidneys and the heart just a hair, fitted the feet, carved the top down to approximately the right shape. So anyway, let's try to get some strings on this thing. Alright guys, the bridge is done, and yeah, I'm very happy with the string heights. Yep, that's quite good. So now it's time to deal with the sound post. So the strings are on, but they're not up to full tension. We don't want to do that because it's going to put a lot of weight down on the top, and without the sound post, the top technically could collapse. Take our now, more or less, get our little light here. I'll look down in here and make sure that we're another little inspection mirror. Okay, that's not too bad. Alright, so let's take our tool out. and compare it with the length of the sound post. That's what the tool is for. And yeah, the sound post is just a hair long, so we're just gonna take a piece of sandpaper and take just a little bit of meat off of that thing. There we go. Alright, so now that we've got it cut to length, we're going to go down through the F-hole. You can see I've got it on a pretty steep angle here, but that's so I can turn it into position. Okay, so ideally, the sound post you want to set right about here. So, about 3.5 mils, depending on the thickness of the top. Now, I didn't measure this top, but that's a rough estimate. And just inside the outside edge of that bridge foot. So, we're just going to take a quick look in here with my inspection light and my mirror. Now that we've got it in there, and hopefully I can finagle this around and try to keep you guys in the loop. Straight up and down. Now, once it's in place, you can kind of tap at it a little bit. To move it around. And that looks pretty good. So now that the sound post is in and standing more or less where it's at, we can go ahead and tune this thing up to pitch and give it a try. So I'm gonna tune it up and then we'll have a go with it. All right, guys, it looks great. Hopefully it sounds good. I'm sure it would in the hands of a real violinist, but you didn't expect a heavy-handed guy like me to be a real fiddle player. So anyway, let's see here. Not too bad. Yeah, I think that's got a reasonably pleasant tone to it, guys. Now, this was not meant to be a restoration video or even a how-to, just an example of some of the tools and techniques that real violin repairmen use to work on probably much more expensive violins than this one, but there's no reason if you have got one of these old trade fiddles like this that you can't do it yourself with a little reading, a few specialized tools, and some just sheer gumption. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. If you haven't done it yet, hit that subscribe button. Turn on all notifications as we got a lot more great content coming up for you. In the description box below, I'll put our email address and links to our Facebook page if you guys haven't checked that out yet. Remember to hit that like button as it really, really helps us out. And until next time, this is Chris for BustedKnuckleDIY saying, keep wrenching.